Steam's latest Next Fest demo extravaganza started on Monday, and it runs all the way until March 3rd, so I'm not going to waste any more time and get us straight into those games. A Bumpy Ride is a casual railroad sim where you pick up passengers and cargo and try your best to get them all to the right destination in a timely manner. The whole world's got this little miniature model train feel to it. There are little doodads and gizmos to change your direction, speed, and even a horn you can sound as much as you'd like. It's kind of just like the perfect chill little game. You can either ride around aimlessly or take your job a little more seriously, tooting your horn when the sign says and slowing down for wide turns. The map was a little tricky to navigate with, partially because I hadn't discovered all the tracks yet, and it is very easy to take a wrong turn, so watch out if anyone on board is particularly impatient. You can eventually buy new types of train cars and different steam engines, customize everything. All in all, a Bumpy Ride's got everything a game like this should have, and I want more of it. REPOSE has a super short demo, and I couldn't get the window any bigger than this, but it intrigued me enough to squint my way through it. I'd describe it as a minimalist survival horror dungeon crawler. You explore a creepy sci-fi facility looking for answers, and the enemies scattered around aren't the only thing you have to worry about. Your oxygen is limited and depletes with each step, so you don't want to spend too much time wandering around. If you do die, you'll just respawn at the last rest spot and hopefully avoid whatever mistake you made in the next run. You can open up shortcuts to more quickly get back to where you were, and every time you do reach a new safe area, you'll get a fresh code that you need to write down. See, REPOSE doesn't actually save your progress, so whenever you quit the game, you'll have to input that code when booting it up again. A nice little touch that adds to the overall tense atmosphere. Next up is the Knightling, a surprisingly fluid 3D platformer where you play as a little knight in training with a very big shield. You can use it to bash or throw at enemies, glide around the map after you get an upgrade, or, my favorite, surf over the landscape. Your teacher, Sir Lionstone, still hasn't returned from his great big quest yet, so as the Knightling, you venture out into the city outskirts to help out those in need. Gameplay is equal parts traversal, combat, and puzzle solving, which I found to be pretty refreshing for a platformer like this. During one quest, I was tasked with investigating a farm for monster activity, poking my nose into the sheds and barns scattered around in order to find a lead, which I ultimately used to track down and destroy their nest. The Knightling was not on my radar at all before I played this demo, but now I can confidently say that I am very much looking forward to its full release. Sticking with the knight theme, Castle v Castle is a very easy to pick up and super satisfying tower building card game. Everything about it is straightforward, from the black line art on the white background to the back and forth block building and destroying. Each turn you can either play a card or discard one. The number and symbol at the top corresponds with your stats on the left of the screen. If the number is high enough, you can play it. Simple. I found that my strategy started shifting as I got a better grip on the rules, and eventually I was thinking more and more moves in advance. But, well, things don't always go according to plan, do they? Castle v Castle doesn't waste your time. Each turn is super quick, and there are some snappy sound effects and animations to go with your choice. At the end of each round, you get to add a new card to your deck, and although I didn't make it that far, I'd imagine you could come up with a nice little strategy to win based on your picks. Here's a real creepy one. I Nima is a psychological horror game where you have to convince your mom that you really are her daughter. The way she's drawn is so creepy, and the whole mystery of what happened and slowly revealing the pieces of the past immediately pulled me in. Your mom has you tied up in the basement, and you don't remember how you got there. Apparently, you had an accident while swimming and have been restrained for your own safety. In order to answer your mother's questions, you have to combine words in your brain, use them to talk, and most importantly, get her to trust you. And if you don't, well, I don't think you want to find out what happens if you don't. One problem though. There's a little voice in the back of your head telling you that something's not right and that you may not actually be you. Anyone up for a post-apocalyptic Sakabon game? Hazard Pay is such a cool twist on your usual block-pushing puzzles. You are tasked with cleaning up every last bit of evidence across varying crime scenes of increasing complexity. Push your mop bucket around to clean up blood smears and your own footprints after walking through it. Dissolve body parts in vats of acid as you try not to end up in them yourself. And never under any circumstances question what happened. Just do your job and get out. There are a lot of great little mechanics that slowly get introduced to you over the course of the demo, and the difficulty stacks up quite quickly. Hazard Pay is probably one of those games that'll get too tricky for me to actually finish on my own, but the journey is definitely thought-provoking and rewarding when you finally figure out the answer to a very tough puzzle. In Isopod, you play as a little pill bug, rolling and smashing your way through the Australian bush. The animations for the bug are so cute. All your movements have this very weighty feel to them, which is kind of surprising since our bug character is so tiny. And even though you're not quite as agile as you are in other 3D platformers, you can pick up quite a bit of speed. If you've ever played this spider web-slinging game Webbed, this is the spin-off sequel to that, and it really does feel like that game with an extra dimension added. The fire ants, of course, are up to no good, so we've got to stop them by shutting off valves with the magnet strapped to our back, grappling our way around the landscape, and sometimes fighting them head-on. This one is a bit performance-heavy, and I'd imagine that it'd look quite stunning if you had a killer PC setup. I always love bug games, and it's great to see this new entry shaping up to be a fun and destructive time. And the award for cutest video game dog goes to this little puppy in Koira. I already know the full game is going to put me on the verge of tears at least once. It so effortlessly shows your very sad character falling in love with this little guy as you two run through the forest, singing songs and playing fetch. But there are some sinister forces at play, hunters roaming through the woods and other menacing creatures to be on the lookout for. Studio Tolima did such a wonderful job with the character and world design, so there's really no way you wouldn't at least feel a little bit of attachment towards these two, even after just playing for a few minutes. Koira will be out soon on April 1st, no joke, and I can't wait. This next one feels like a sunny daydream, and it's quite the sensory experience. All the dialogue is in Spanish, sometimes multiple people are talking at once, and there are lots of distractions all around. The sounds of birds and traffic. It's definitely an experience best had firsthand. You play as a kid growing up in Ecuador who's hooked on soccer. You'll play any chance you can get, even when it could get you into trouble. Kicking the ball around feels so great, and the gameplay perfectly captures this childlike sense of wonder and a very carefree vibe. The story is told through a bunch of small vignettes as Ecuador gets closer and closer to playing in the World Cup for the first time, and you can experience the full story in just a few months when Despelote releases on May 1st. And the last one, before I get to all the honorable mentions, is Static Dread. Take on the role of a lighthouse keeper after some catastrophe has rendered all communication technology useless. Your new job guiding ships to safety is extremely important, and there's a mysterious dark force trying to stop you. Around the lighthouse, you'll find different mechanisms to keep up and running, light switches, windows to peek out of, and the radio, where you'll get new tasks and mysterious callers. I love how the whole building feels a little wonky. I never knew exactly what was going to happen, but I tried to remain calm and just focus on the job I was called here to do. A very spooky demo. And now to quickly go over some other great games that I've already covered recently on the channel, but I still think are worth being mentioned again. We've got an automaton megastructure parkour game called Hypogea, Wander Stop, surprisingly dark tea shop simulator, a wacky open-world crime drama by the name of Promise Mascot Agency, and the very wonderful Wheel World. Phew, that was quite the list. I'm gonna go, probably play a few more demos throughout the rest of Next Fest, But, maybe I'll squeeze some sleep and rest in there too, because there are quite a few new releases that I plan on covering in March and beyond.